So today we are talking about the topic of hope. For those of us, for those of you who were with us in our earlier session, we talked a lot about mission and vision and how hopefulness is a central part to inviting people into community with us as we're raising funds or as we're building community in general. But we also know that it can be incredibly overwhelming to hear the news every day and see how many people are struggling across the globe. It seems like conflict is never ending and there's something new every day. We hear about climate disasters that are often hitting those who are least able to weather them. So how can we, in this context, how do we maintain hope? I'm going to talk a little bit about 2022, what PWS&D has been sort of responding to, sort of top of mind things that PWS&D has been responding to in 2022, just to maybe set a little bit of context. So we'd like to share just a few things that are currently on PWS&D's plate. One of the things that we've been communicating about with you for quite some time is the global food crisis that is currently underway. There are currently 50 million people living across 45 countries who are facing emergency levels of hunger. Stress on global food systems could lead to an additional 323 million people facing acute hunger before the end of this year. We know that the effects of climate change, conflict, and COVID-19 have helped create a situation where action is essential because world hunger rose by an unprecedented 18% last year. And progress to reduce world hunger in recent decades has largely evaporated. The war in Ukraine is also contributing. Can you go to the next slide, Emma? The war in Ukraine is also contributing to sharp rises in global food crisis, in global food prices. My words today, in global food prices, which, as we all know, because we've experienced it ourselves in the grocery stores when we go, we know groceries are costing more right now. But because Ukraine and Russia also grow a lot of food, as well as producing a lot of the fertilizer that farmers across the globe use, food and fertilizer prices have gone up even more dramatically, particularly in places where food imports are one of the primary ways that the population is being fed. We also know that as of November, there are almost 8 million refugees because of the Ukraine conflict, which continues to create situations where people are in need of urgent humanitarian assistance.
So something else that has been brought to your attention as champions is the food insecurity situation in Afghanistan, where about half the population are food insecure right now. And that's since the Taliban takeover. We also know that there is a rule in Canadian law that prohibits sending humanitarian aid as far as sending money to support that, if in case some of that would end up in the hands of the Taliban, which is considered a terrorist organization. And you know this because we've been asking for advocacy from champions and congregations and others to ask the government for a humanitarian carve-out, because we and other organizations have programs ready to go, but we're not able to respond. And one final thing, just to, you would have seen on the news, kind of the most recent news item here at PWS&D as well, is this Pakistan flood situation. So by September of this year, Pakistan had received about 3 times the amount of rain that they would normally receive in a full year. And as much as 1/3 of the country was underwater. This is meaning that 33 million people approximately were affected. 6.4 million require urgent humanitarian assistance, and at least 1.8 million homes and over 17,000 schools were damaged and destroyed.
So how do we maintain hope? We don't share this context with you in order to make you feel hopeless, but I think we do it to set the stage for things that give us hope. How do we maintain hope when the world is hurting and when we are tired and overwhelmed? Um, I'm going to share a little bit about what gives me hope. I'm going to share a little bit with you from Philippians. This verse, well, Philippians 4 has given me comfort since I was a teen, but I'm going to share a passage with you from Philippians 4. This is a version from the Message, where it's written, I'm just as happy with as little as with much as with little. I found the recipe for being happy, whether full or hungry, hands full or hands empty. Whatever I have, wherever I am, I can make it through anything in the one who makes me who I am. And I find that to be an incredibly comforting thing to remember, day in, day out, when I sit here at my desk and we hear stories about people like that boy in the previous slide who hasn't been able to leave his house or go to school for several months because his school is closed. He can't leave his house because there's snakes in the water by his house and kids are catching communicable waterborne diseases. It's hard sometimes in those moments to maintain hope, but it's a helpful comfort to know that God's presence is always with us. Part of what I also get daily is encouragement by the signs of God's presence that I see in the work. There's so much hope to be found in the work that the church is doing. Emma and I are going to share some specific stories and examples with you, and I really hope that you find them as hopeful as we do.
And also,
so before Emma goes to that slide, I'm just going to introduce it. So the man you're going to be hearing next is Dr. Alain Cassius, who is a global partner representative on PWS&D's committee. And he works for one of PWS&D's partners in Haiti, Zanmi La Sante, which is an arm of an organization called Partners in Health. They do work to address malnutrition, particularly with children in Haiti, where malnutrition is a tremendously large issue. I'm just going to share the video now.
And also the core of the treatment is supplying the RUTFs, a ready-to-use therapeutic food, which in Haiti we call nouimaba. It's basically a peanut butter that is reinforced with supplements. So it's rich in protein, rich in a lot of other supplements that the child would need in order to make them gain back their weight faster and also be able to adequately have an evolution. And it typically takes around 4 months for a child to recover. In average, I'd say some may take maybe faster, 4 months to recover after starting the treatment. I wanted to talk about one success story that we had. This is a child who came to the hospital and came during a clinic, and we immediately had to transport her to the hospital because she was in a very bad shape. As you can see, she has skin lesions, she had diarrhea, no appetite, and she had to be treated for all these other issues. But also, at some point, she was put on the nouimaba. When the child is this deteriorated, unfortunately, we cannot immediately give her the maba. So they always start by giving milk because she may not be able to digest the nouimaba correctly, and that peanut butter may give her more diarrhea if we are not careful. Even the milk may be inadequate if it is not carefully dosed and diluted. Now, she was put on the nouimaba, and in the next slide, you can see how well she evolves after only 3 months of taking the nouimaba. This also gives you the opportunity to show you the boko of nouimaba in her hand, and she's feeding herself with it. it's not a peanut butter that is very dense. So it's a bit more liquid than regular peanut butter, allowing the child to ingest it better. I'd say this was an amazing evolution for us, and we were very proud of the fact that she survived, because often enough they come to the hospital too late, and even when we find them at the clinics, they may be too late for them when we bring them to the hospital, and we're quite happy that she evolved so well. And also,
so Gloria, the story told there of Gloria is just one example of hundreds of kids who every year are assisted through this malnutrition project in Haiti. And it's just really encouraging to, physically see the transformation that's happening for kids. And then knowing that PWS&D has ongoing programs for food security for families in Haiti to help ensure that situations like this aren't perpetual cycles. I want to now share a story with you about some girls who attend Neno Girls Secondary School in Malawi. For those who were with us earlier, Trish had talked about how she had engaged with her church to do fundraising for the Neno Girls School. And this is actually the school that she was talking about. PWS&D works to support teenage girls to attend high school through the Neno Girls School. And I want to share with you the experiences of two girls who attend Neno. So one is a 17-year-old girl named Linda Way, who is in her second last year of high school at Neno. So these words are hers. All these years, things were okay, but they started to change when my dad died. He was the one who was paying my school fees and doing everything for me. Even the relatives from my dad's side do not want to help me, and my mom finds it hard to find money to pay for my school fees. The best thing my mom wants for me is to get an education and find a good job. But without family to help support her school fees, Linda Way was going to be forced with dropping out of school. But PWS&D provides scholarships and bursaries to students like Linda Way so that they can continue going to school. We know that the outcomes for girls and women improve exponentially the longer they're in school. Marriage is delayed, first children are had later in life, and then the neonatal outcomes for those children also go up exponentially with how long or how much schooling a mother has had. So we know that the outcomes for children improve when mothers are better educated. Another student, Carolyn, said, I am lucky to be here because my other friends dropped out of school due to a lack of support. None of the girls in our village have managed to reach the highest grade of high school or go to college or university. I know I could get married, but this bothers me a lot because I want to finish school and pursue a college education. Carolyn and Linda Way are both able to keep going to school because of the work that the church is doing to prioritize girls' education in places like Malawi. As Linda Way shares, she was one of 20 girls who received support in 2021. And she says, I just want to say thank you for helping me on my education because it wouldn't have been able to continue without the support that she received.
Okay, so a couple more stories to share that are providing hope to us, and we hope that they also provide you with some hope. So pictured here is Rano, who is from southeastern Pakistan with her husband Jivo and their two children. They live in a small village 15 kilometers southeast of Umarkat. And for the past year, her husband Jivo had farmed the land, but droughts prior to the floods that are being experienced right now, droughts exacerbated by climate change made it nearly impossible for anything to grow, and even more challenging for the couple to make ends meet without that income. So Jivo actually went into the city to find work as a laborer, which wasn't providing very much for the family, but it was providing some And then the family was selected to participate in a PWS&D supported food assistance project. So Reno and Jivo were eligible to receive that food aid. And after they got the second installment of the food aid, they were able to start saving Jivo's salary to invest in the agricultural land in hopes that the rain would soon come. And another interesting thing you see here in this photo, some beautiful tapestries. So Reno is a skilled seamstress, but she couldn't afford to buy a sewing machine. And so with this food assistance project, taking care of the family's food needs, she can put away money, and she's saving now to one day become a tailor for her village. And that's something that will be helpful for her, not just right now and her family, not just right now, but into the future. And then you might recognize that these photos are actually from Canada. Another thing we didn't want to miss is something that also gives us hope is Presbyterians and others responding when they see need. So these photos are for the Journey for Hope, which happened this October. There were 11 teams throughout Canada who participated, and a total of about $24,000 was raised. And this goes towards supporting PWS&D's ongoing food security response. And I just wanted to read a few quotes from people who participated. So Darlene Vandermeet, who led the team at Gale Presbyterian Church in Elmira, said, as the 9 Gale riders set off to cycle 17 kilometers, God blessed us with beautiful sunshine. The most beautiful part was a trail beside the Grand River, where we witnessed many geese and the beauty of nature that God gives in trees, plants, and bushes. And then William Ball of Edmonton Lakeland Amblers, who you see on the left and at the top, playing Dungeons and Dragons. Those were from his church. He reflected on the many different ways that people were involved. So he said, most of us gathered at Dayspring Presbyterian, where people put together as many puzzles as possible in 2 hours, played cribbage, ping pong, Dungeons and Dragons. Another group set off along the picturesque White Mud Creek Ravine Trail. And then there was just comments about how very important global food security is to everyone, and not just those who participated, but those who donated, and how excited people are to be able to respond in this way in the future. So that's another thing that we wanted to share that gives hope. We also thought, in addition to sharing some stories of hope, that we could share with you kind of a mantra or a few little tidbits that you can pin up when things feel really hopeless. The first one being, when I feel hopeless, I can learn. So ways that you can learn about what's going on in the world are, yes, you can learn by watching the news or reading the newspaper or looking on social media. But something that can help you to maintain hope is also to moderate that intake. So to learn a sufficient amount and then also turn that off and take a little bit of a break. Something else you can do to learn both about what's going on in the world and about a hopeful response is to check werespond.ca. That's the PWS&D website. And on that website, there are stories of impact. So not just about the things that are going wrong around the world, but also about lives that are being transformed as the ones that we have shared already today. When I feel hopeless, I can pray. Many of you have joined for Champions Pray, which happens on the first Wednesday of each month. You can pray together with your congregation, with your family, on your own, as you hear something right in that moment to say, Lord, be with that situation. I know I take that practice when I hear an ambulance go by. When I feel hopeless, I can act. So right now, PWS&D is encouraging people to respond to the hunger crisis, specifically the Afghanistan situation, through advocacy. So there's an opportunity to write to your local MP, and Karen has dropped the link in the chat, because right now there is no humanitarian carve out for providing aid, but countries such as the US, Australia, the UK have created a way to still support people in need in that country. So when you feel hopeless, you can act, you can raise awareness for people in need. You can also act by seeking to increase joy in your circumstance. I know a friend of mine just had a baby, and she's, hauled up at home all hours of the day, taking care of this new life, their first child. And on a day when I felt pretty just distraught recently, I went out and I just bought some food for them and left it on their doorstep. You can do small things that increase joy and kindness in your immediate circumstance. When I feel hopeless, I can reflect. So you could journal to get it all out there, or share about your struggles with a friend in person or over the phone or online. You can also reflect by incorporating practices of gratitude in your daily life. So when we see an answered prayer, or when we see something that might be a privilege, we can recognize, Lord, thank you that I am able to turn on my tap and have water. When I feel hopeless, I can give. So we heard today about Journey for Hope, which is a fundraiser, and many champions, many others, many ministers have encouraged generosity in their congregations through fundraisers. Or you can also give personally, and we have gifts of change and the giving tree. I have a little ornament here coming up this Christmas season. That is another way that you can both give personally and encourage those in your community to give. So all that is to say, there's a phrase that Karen will often use with me when I am writing an article about something heavy and just need to think it through. She says, remember, we're called to do our part, but not to carry the whole burden. So you can think about how you can share both the struggle and the joy.